My name is Kerry Magro. I'm born and raised in Jersey City, New Jersey, and I've had the wonderful opportunity of being at the Autism Society of America conference. This is my 4th year at the conference. I started off in the conferences actually as a high school graduate. I received a scholarship which was combined with ASA and their corporate sponsor, CBS, and I received a $1,000 scholarship as an outstanding individual with autism. So I got the opportunity to go down to Scottsdale, Arizona, and I think this was the opportunity that really led me to really trying to share my voice with others and really try to become a self-advocate just for autism advocacy all around the United States. So that's a little bit about me in regards to that. And the previous 2 years before that, I was in Florida, and now I presented last year on growing up on the spectrum, and this year I'm going to dabble a little bit into I'm turning into a crazy person when I say words like this. This time I'm going to talk about a little bit of my experience with a video blog I started last September, which has really helped me to spread my voice in ways I never thought would be imaginable. So I guess to start off, this is me when I was first diagnosed with autism. I have autism. I was diagnosed with pervasive developmental disorder, now that was specified in 1992, and I'm now 24. So I say anniversary, but I don't know if I should even say anniversary, but I've just spent 20 years on the autism spectrum, so I've had the opportunity to learn a lot of autism-related topics over the years based on my experience, based on talking to parents, and it's definitely been an interesting experience looking at everything we have in our community today, from everything to early intervention to adult services. And I feel like I'm learning as I go in many of these aspects from experts, individuals such as yourself, and so on and so forth. So one of my shining experiences, which just happened recently to me last May of 2011, was graduating college. This is me with my hair like going crazy because it was very, very windy that day. But I graduated from Seton Hall University. Like I said, I'm born and raised in Jersey City, New Jersey. The school's in South Orange, New Jersey. And I graduated with a bachelor's in sport management, with actually business with a concentration in sport management. And based on my experiences, based on having the opportunities to go to conferences such as ASA, and also to really spread my voice in many ways towards the autism field and trying to make a difference in autism, I decided that I really wanted to focus more on advocacy, and I still want to be a kid. So I figured one of the things I could do is I could go and get my master's, and I decided to get my master's in strategic communication. And I guess the reason why I also did that was because in April of 2011, I was a keynote speaker in my hometown, Jersey City, for an autism awareness event. And with this opportunity, I actually turned that opportunity into a scholarship application with the National Speakers Association, which I ended up getting for grad school, to pay for grad school. So from that opportunity, I became a person involved with their organization as a student member, and I've been a student member with their organization ever since, and it's been such a wonderful opportunity. And through that, it really showed me that there are people interested in me becoming more focused in strategic communications, and I can make a career into this. And since then, I've been speaking at different venues. I've spoken at over 40 different venues in the past year on a variety of different topics, which I'm going to go a little bit more into today in regards to the autism field. Everything from early intervention from kids who are very little to adult services today. So I really think the whole aspect is, I just really, in many aspects, want to help the future carry managers who are going to be being diagnosed and make sure that they understand that there is hope in our community. There are individuals out there who are reaching adulthood and are doing great, great things. So, just to tell you a little bit more about what I'm doing today, I'm currently, I have a lot of hats within the autism community. I'm currently a writer and columnist for the website called Autism After 16. Their website is actually at autismafter16.com. And they are a fabulous resource for information in regards to resources for young adults. They go through a lot of different topics, anything from post-secondary education, employment opportunities, housing, how to live life independently. And I think one of the biggest aspects is becoming a self-advocate, which I'm still trying to do a lot today. So I speak a lot about my experiences growing up on the spectrum and reaching early adulthood there. Also, I am currently a co-host for a radio show called Autism Radio, Hope Saves the Day. This is a radio show that has been around for almost 2 years in my hometown of New Jersey. And we have over 120 episodes, and we have all of our radio shows last about an hour, and we have podcasts available via iTunes on a variety of different topics. And we are always advocating and appreciative when people come up and say they want to be on the show and want to spread their expertise. Because I think a big thing with a lot of initiatives I'm going to mention today is the whole aspect of community. The whole aspect of making sure everyone's voices are heard, and also making sure that we're not leaving anyone out. Because autism, as we all know, the main thing with autism, a characteristic that we're always trying to build up in our loved ones is communication. And honestly, the best way to have people who are going to be built for our community is making sure the whole communication aspect is built, and that everyone is not being left in the dark, that everyone has a shining light in our community. So that's another thing I'm doing. And also, I am currently a social media consultant for Autism Speaks. They founded me as a junior in my undergrad in 2010, and they gave me an opportunity to spread my voice to so many different venues. I think the greatest thing Autism Speaks has given me is the opportunity to become a blogger and then become a social media consultant. One thing I noticed from one of my first blogs, I had the opportunity in 2010 to go to an event called Tip Off for the Cure. And this event was for, which we co-sponsored with the National Basketball Association. And one thing everyone should know about me is I'm a big basketball nut. I think basketball has led to a lot of different ways that I've developed in my overall life. And I got to meet so many great individuals in New York where the event was held, such as Dikembe Mutombo, Clifford Robinson, a lot of Hall of Fame NBA players and a lot of retired NBA players. And I had that great opportunity. And that, after writing the blog and getting to interview all those people, something unexpected happened, and I got to share my story. I got to share my story on the blog along with the interviews of all those different individuals. And then I had parents emailing me. I had parents emailing me about their son or daughter and hearing all these different stories and being like, wow, okay, this is like amazing. And they're asking me questions about how I can help their son or daughter. And I'm like, okay, this is great. This is really what I want to really grasp, being able to help individuals at either they're emailing me or they're coming to conferences, really being able to help. And that's actually what has led me to become a consultant for a lot of parents with individuals on the spectrum. Just getting to hear the stories, getting to hear how so much of their stories relate to some of the stories that I dealt with when I was a kid. It's really magical, and I've had a great opportunity to do that. One of my latest adventures, which has put me on cloud nine in many aspects, was actually around the same time I was joining Autism Speaks. I had the opportunity to get in contact with a director for a movie that actually recently came out last January in Joyful Noise, starring Queen Latifah and Dolly Parton. I don't know if anyone has had the opportunity to see the movie, but in the movie, there is one character who has Asperger's syndrome. He's a teenager, he's 14 years old, and he's actually the character of the son character of Queen Latifah in the movie. And I, based on my experience in the autistic community, actually had the opportunity to meet with the director. It's really a funny story. He emailed me with the entire script, basically just nonchalant, was like, "Hi, I'm a movie director." I'm like, "Okay, that's nice. Nice to meet you." And he literally sent me the script, and he asked me to give my thoughts based on my experience growing up on the autism spectrum. And I literally went through the 88-page script, highlighting everything I possibly could on the character, looking at the character and what he did and what I could relate to my life in the spectrum. And we literally sat down 2 weeks later in New York for 3 hours, and we went through the entire script, which was a little bit of a daunting task if you can imagine going through an 88-page script. But I gave him some thoughts. I gave him some advice on therapies that helped me when I was a teenager, advice for therapies that helped me while I was growing up. And we really got to just focus on the whole aspect of autism. He really didn't understand autism as a whole in many aspects. And he told me that he spoke to many experts, but he wants someone on the autism spectrum who he thought could really relate to the experience, who could relate to this teenager. So I had that opportunity. I got a credit in the end of the movie and got to go to Hollywood last January, which was very close to my birthday. So I was like, yay, double win. So I had the opportunity. It was at the end of the movie, and it said, "Thank you. Thanks goes to Carrie Macro." And I was like, yay. And then we were all clapping at the end of the movie, and everyone was like, "What's going on?" Because no one claps during the credits. But I was, and my parents were, so it's good enough. In addition to that, like I said, I wear many hats in the autism community. I'm currently in the process of starting my own nonprofit organization in my hometown, focused on special need housing, but also in regards to the motivational speaking that I've been able to do around the country. Along with consulting for parents with individuals on the spectrum. My organization is called KFM, Making a Difference in the Community. This has been a task that has given me so many opportunities to talk to so many wonderful individuals, because I do come from a business background. So this is something that I understand a lot, and it's helped me a lot with coming to organizations such as the Autism Society of America, Autism Speaks, similar nonprofits who are focusing on special needs. So this has been a wonderful opportunity. Also recently, I don't know if anyone has heard of the website called swag.com. Has anyone heard of Swag? Okay. Swag is a website that's focused on really the young individual on the spectrum and giving them an environment to feel safe in, an environment to learn from different individuals, not only with autism, but autism experts in the field. It's definitely a great website. I believe the age range is 8 to 18. And I just started as a contributor, sharing my actual blog with them and some of my videos. So the kids can understand from someone also with autism some of the things they should expect when they're growing up, which has been a phenomenal opportunity. Like I mentioned, the professional speaking, I've also become a life coach for many individuals on the spectrum, consulting them, really talking to them about what I went through when I was growing up, and really trying to help them and just give them someone to talk to and give them someone who they can feel safe around, knowing that we've had similar experiences, because I think that's very good. Just someone you can relate to on any level, especially for young ones. It's so essential. And I'm currently writing a book. I'm writing a book on my experience in college, and haven't figured out a title yet, but it's going to be a self-help guide for individuals with learning disabilities. And I'm currently finishing the manuscript, and then I'll go through all the fun of trying to figure out self-publishing and publishing and all that. So that will be exciting. And the last thing is I've been a youth delegate through Autistic for the United Nations for almost 2 years now. Ever since I mentioned I really want to get on the whole concept of advocacy, but also at the same time autism reform. Autism reform is something that I really, really have been pushing in a lot of the states I've been going to. More specifically right now in Delaware, because if anyone knows, autism reform is currently in 31 states. And this is mandated autism reform, and right now we're trying to get Delaware. Delaware is basically on the line. We're trying to make them number 32, and we're just trying to make these people understand we are the majority now. We have a majority of states that have autism reform, so you need to get online, and that's basically it. So we used to be the minority. I remember starting really focusing on autism reform when we only had 10 states, and then we were like, oh, okay, what is autism reform? A lot of states really don't know, and it's amazing how many government officials and government organizations have no idea what autism is. So yeah, it's definitely been an interesting journey so far. So this goes into the main part of my presentation I'm going to discuss today. It's a blog I started called My Autism, My Voice. It's actually myautismmyvoice.com, and it's a video blog dedicated towards giving self-help tips to parents with children on the spectrum. I've seen this as a great opportunity from a lot of my experiences where I would send emails off to parents, and a lot of the stuff would be similar questions, and then I've realized that, okay, I have an opportunity here as I'm going into grad school as a strategic communication major to not only help myself become more vocal, to understand, because there have been a lot of advantages of doing a video blog towards building up my self-confidence and my public speaking, but also to give parents the opportunity to see these links and to be able to refer them to these links to really help their son or daughter. So it's been a phenomenal experience so far. So like I said, I did start the initiative in September 2011, and the first episode I ever did, which I'm going to explain a little bit further along, is my story. I just discussed my story, and all these videos, by the way, are about 3 to 5 minutes long. I know everyone has crazy schedules, so I wouldn't plan on keeping anyone more than 5 minutes, but each one of the episodes is focused on the autism-related topic, and really trying to get through the whole spectrum of autism. And yeah, it currently has 25,000 views on the Blogger site, and 37,000 views on YouTube. So we are constantly building. It has been a very, very fun endeavor. I'm constantly in between sessions actually doing video blogs that are going to go up soon. So it's really become a little bit of an addiction, but I mean, social media has become an addiction just in general anyways. But one of my videos that I've done recently was actually in regards to the comments done by Joe Scarborough, if anyone has heard his fun comments that he said recently. If no one's heard about Joe Scarborough, Joe Scarborough is a journalist who has a show called Morning Joe, and he said some, I don't even know what the word is, but some very on the line comments in regards to the shooter in the Colorado Aura, Colorado shooting, and saying that the individual, James Holmes, who's also 24, which I'm 24 also, said that he might be on the autism scale. And we had a lot of very upset parents and very upset me going out, and I actually did a video, and it's actually got 2,000 views. The video's name is I Have Autism and I'm Not a Murderer. It's basically the whole aspect that there's no scientific data in regards to autism and crime, and for the few incidents where an autistic individual has been dealt with a crime, it's very inconsistent. We don't really have statistics that say this and this and this is happening. So that's one of the more recent videos I've done, and a lot of the videos have been just ways of expressing myself and helping me get stuff out, because sometimes it's difficult. I mean, you have things on your mind, and it's sometimes just a relief to just get to express them in any way you can. And this has been one of the ways I've been doing that. So that is a very, very young me. That is me when I was about 3 years old. And 6 months old, really? By the way, I have my parents in the audience, in the back. They're celebrating their 30th anniversary, by the way. So, came down to San Diego. So, now I'm going to explain a little bit more about some of the topics I've discussed in my video blog. And I'm going to go based on basically the entire spectrum. I'm not going to go really into detail with each and every one, but just giving a little experience of what I've seen from a lot of these instances. I think this is the most important topic that I've ever spread. It's called My Story. I'm always encouraging individuals with autism, no matter what age they are, to really share their story in any way they see best. Whether it's in writing, whether it's a video blog, whether it's just speaking out about the subject. I think it's very, very therapeutic, and it's also very, makes you understand the whole acceptance factor. I think I wouldn't have started off with this video if I wasn't accepting of myself as an autistic individual. And through my story, I was diagnosed with PDD, NOS when I was 4. I was nonverbal until I was 2.5 years old, and I went through a lot of different challenges growing up on the spectrum. I was in public school, I was in a multi-handicapped classroom, and then I was in private school for kids with only learning disabilities. And most of my early characteristics I had were more focused on social interaction and communication and sensory integration issues. When I was 4, I would have issues whenever I would hear thunder. I would literally just dive right under into the couch and just be like, oh my God, please make this stop. So I had a lot of different sound issues, and growing up, it was definitely interesting to try to figure out what would be the places where I would need to find myself to get me to the next level, to make me progress and not have so many difficulties. And it was a combination of a lot of different things. But I think one of the main things, and it's kind of a broad area, is really trial and error is so very, very important when you're trying therapies. And also to understand that I had many, many therapies that worked for me. So what we did was we did a combination of them. It wasn't necessarily just one therapy that worked, but it was a combination of every single therapy coming together to really, really help me, because autism is so broad and there's so many different characteristics that our loved ones have. So it's important to focus on so many different areas. And it can be time consuming, but we are ideally here for our loved ones and trying to make sure that they live the best lives possible. So it is a lot of trial and error. So I'm going to, the transition from this is a lot of my video blogs also involve poetry. And my story, I'm going to share a poem with everyone now, which actually explains a little bit more detail about my story. And the poem is called Only If You Knew Me. If you knew me. If you knew me, you would know I was nonverbal at 2.5. You would know I was diagnosed with autism at 4. You would know I got kicked out of 2 preschools. You would know I had extreme sensory integration difficulties. You would know I would lash out to get attention when I couldn't communicate on my own. You would know I choked my hair. You would know that when I was in school, my peers labeled special education as wrong instead of special. You would know I spent hundreds of hours a year in therapy to get to where I am today. You would know I spent hundreds of hours being bullied because of my diagnosis. You would know that being institutionalized was a possibility. But if you also knew me, you would know I graduated grade school. You would know I graduated high school. You would know I graduated college. You would know that I'm 2 semesters away from getting my master's degree. You would know I have a job. You would know I live independently today. You would know I consult to help parents who have children with autism. You would know I'm a motivational speaker, life coach, and author. you would know I have had a girlfriend. You would know I love my family, my friends, and the autistic community that is out there. You would know that I'm carried, and no matter what autism means or doesn't mean, I'm being the best me I can be. Only if you knew me. So, if you're reading this, this is a blog I wrote, so I wrote after this, if you're reading this, please know that autism can't define our loved ones, and only we can define autism. I think that's very important. I know so many kids on the spectrum today who are trying to be the very best they can be. We as a community have so many unique and beautiful stories to share, so please make sure they are heard. Make them known for a better day, and if I can ever be of any help, please let me know. I'm only one email and phone call away, literally. I have a BlackBerry, I'm 24/7. Thank you all for reading, and God bless. So that was my plan. And it's, again, the whole aspect of doing the blog has been to really help me in accepting who I am as an individual, but also the poetry has been something I've been dabbling in a lot of different ways. And this is how I express myself in many ways when it's difficult to sometimes express my different feelings and emotions to people just on a one-on-one basis, face-to-face. This is something that I find very, very helpful. So, to go into the importance of social media, I think there are so many different benefits for our loved ones in regards to the importance of social media. For me, the whole aspect of being able to do the video blog and being able to focus on a particular thing such as doing that has helped me in a lot of different areas of my life. One thing I would say probably this has taught me to do very, very well is in regards to the whole aspect of eye contact. Being able to look at a screen and being able to reflect on my thoughts and being able to focus on that and just focus on that one direct location has really helped me with interviews. I would go into interviews more confident because I would have that opportunity. It's almost kind of like the concept of a mock interview. I would just keep doing it over and over and over again with different topics, talking about different things. And then I would realize that if I could just put this into my workplace, if I could do this at a job interview, then maybe it can relate. And I've seen a lot of my confidence build through doing the videos. Another thing is facial cues and like body language altogether. I've noticed, especially in some of my earliest videos, this is my 15th episode, I noticed that I would always be like rocking back and forth, and I would always have like my weight on like one leg and not on the other, so I would like shift from side to side a lot. And I would notice these things, and I would be able to take what I saw from the videos by looking them over before I post them. I would be able to look at myself and be able to say, okay, I was doing this, and maybe these are some ways that I can improve on that in the future. Because the big thing with me also is the whole aspect of self-reflection and being able to reflect as an individual on what some of your challenges might be, along with some of your strengths, to really focus on you. So that has been another aspect. And also the other aspect of retention. A lot of the things I do with my videos is that I have all my videos transcribed. I have a lot of my videos put into words. So I can read those words, and then I can see where I necessarily might have a few repetitions. Autism, ideally one of the characteristics with autism is that we can sometimes be repetitive. And I notice that some of the things I say can be a little bit repetitive at times. So that helps me to understand that I as an individual have to work on that. So that has been another aspect. In regards to the whole importance of social media, in regards to Facebook, Twitter, and things like that, I've always had difficulty with face-to-face communication growing up. It's something I think all of us have difficulties with, no matter if you're autistic or not. It's something we all need to work on, but I feel like if you can have an equal balance between being able to go online and have your friends and being able to go on Facebook or go on Twitter or any of these other social media sites and really build a community, then if you can have that balance along with that balance, then it makes things a little bit easier for any individual. And it's really built my confidence. The one thing that I always warn people about is the whole fact that it can sometimes be contagious. Like you could be on it for hours and hours on day. I think like I blank for like maybe like 1 second or two like every month, and I'm like, oh, I've been on Facebook for like an hour and a half. So not good. So it's good in healthy balance, but a lot of a good thing is never like, you should never have too much of a good thing. And that's for anything. So I would definitely recommend it to anyone. Another video aspect that I've done is I've looked at and self-reflected on my entire the entire spectrum of school. To me is what I say. I have reflected on a lot of different situations I've had from pre-elementary school to when I was being first diagnosed to now graduate school, and explaining in more detail about some of the more difficult challenges that someone with autism might have at each one of these stages. Pre-elementary for me was, I had a lot of emotional issues growing up. Because I wasn't able to communicate effectively, I wasn't able to get a lot of words out. I would use anger as a way of being able to express myself. And regardless if that was good or not, that's just the way I saw it, being able to communicate to either my parents or teachers. And it was bad, but also at the same time, I think the whole transition into school can be challenging for any young individual. And I think we really need to just make sure they understand what are some of the most common things that you need to understand about school. I think a lot of the times we don't have situations where we have training sessions in regards to how to go into school for the first time. You're just, first day, parent drops you off, and then you're there, and then what? Either the teacher explains it to you or they don't, and most of the time they don't. And that's just a fact. So being able to understand that at an early age is so important. Elementary school was definitely the most challenging part for me because I was in a multi-handicap classroom from first to fourth grade. And a lot of my services, I had PT, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy from 6 till about 17. 6 to 17. And a lot of my experiences with physical therapists were the fact that some of our physical therapists would actually want us to move schools because Jersey City is not necessarily the most safe area in the world. And we've actually had a therapist in the past mention the fact that they would not come to the school because they thought it was in a bad area. So they would only come to treat individuals with learning disabilities if they moved schools. So we actually had to move the school from first to second grade, which was definitely an interesting transition. And then from third to fourth grade, I actually had a teacher who, we heard of this great special ed teacher in Jersey City who actually had to leave on maternity leave on the first week of school. So we were stuck with a substitute teacher for the entire year, which was definitely an interesting experience. So I've been through a lot of different stages of that, and then from 5th grade to 8th grade, I was able to go to a private school for individuals with learning disabilities, which helped me a lot, which only had 160 kids, 1 to 8 student-teacher ratio. I think it's either 8 to 1 or 1 to 8. I keep mixing that up for the life of it. But it definitely helped me a lot. Being able to work on a one-on-one basis has been able to help me develop in so many instances. And I've never had ABA therapy, but I've always had teachers who have always been willing to go above and beyond to take a little bit of self-reflection time in everything I would do to make sure that I was getting the services I needed, because like I said, I was in a multi-handicap classroom. Some of my teachers specifically didn't know really how to work with autism specifically, so they would always try to challenge me, ask me questions on how I can focus on getting to the next level and what I might need and how we can work on it. So having teachers that would always ask me questions was pretty much a godsend to me. And middle school, I was still in the same private school from 5th to 8th grade. Middle school had a lot of different challenges, but I think middle school was the whole, okay, liking girls for the first time, that whole interesting stage. Girls didn't have cooties anymore, like a lot of people say. They were like, oh, girls, okay. So that was definitely an interesting stage for me because I'm still building my social communication skills up, and definitely an interesting aspect of middle school. And then there was high school for me. High school, what was great about where I went for private school was that we had a joint program. The same 160 kids who were going to the middle school also had a joint program across the street for the high school. And this school is called a community lower school, and then I went to community high school, and it's located in Teaneck, New Jersey. Anyone's in the area or is ever looking for resources, they're definitely a great website. All you need to do is type community school Teaneck, and that'll be the first site that pops up. So definitely a great recommendation right there. This topic I've explained on my blog has been probably one of the more controversial ones that I've ever had to deal with. It all goes back to the whole aspect of bullying in schools, and not only bullying in schools, just bullying in general, and how some individuals words do hurt. No matter what people say, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me. It's not really true in our society, and I don't even know if it was ever true, to be perfectly honest. One of the situations I had, which I explained in my video, was in college, was at a bar with a few of my friends. I was 21. I was at a bar with a few of my friends, and one of our friends who was there came up to us, and he was under the influence a little bit of alcohol, and he came up to me, and he was being a little bit belligerent, and one of the situations that happened was I was trying to calm him down, trying to make sure he was okay, and he kind of lashed out to me, and he said, "Shut up, Carrie, you're autistic." And I was like, oh, that really hit a nerve. And I didn't know how to react at first. It was something that was like, wow, like, who says this to someone who, like, it's what I tell a lot of people with the whole, I'm a big advocate of spread the word, the N-word. I don't know if anyone knows of the initiative, but it's really focused on making sure people don't say the R word, and I'm sure everyone knows what the R word is. Yeah, I hate saying it, so I'd really rather not say it, but during my life, I've had situations where kids can be so mean sometimes, call me sped, or call me the R word, or really just, especially early on when I was in public school, kids would always, because they knew I would have the special ed label, I would be in a class all by myself, pretty much separated from the rest of the classes. They would always be like, well, what's wrong with him? And the kids talk, and assumption leads to another assumption, and that was something that was thrown on me for a long time. And I think from this experience, I've always tried to make myself understand that regardless if you have a disability or not, you have abilities that make you who you are as an individual. And it's really important to understand that regardless of the challenges you have in your life, you have strengths. And that any challenge you might have, any challenge you might go through with school, it's also important to look at your strengths, look at who you are as an individual, and being able to focus on your strengths as much as you focus on your challenges. In school, for me, a lot of my early education was focused on the deficit model and focused on trying to help build up my challenges to really help me progress. But also at the same time, I thought in a lot of aspects that the strengths were being overlooked in many areas. So it's really about looking at the entire individual and also be accepting who you are and understand that bullying is a problem, being able to self-aware people in schools, especially the bullies, and really try to focus on that. And so transitioning, this is a topic that has been very, very kind of in the bullying range with a lot of individuals who don't understand this might be bullying, but it comes with the whole aspect of can you outgrow autism? I've had a lot of individuals come up to me, especially recently, and have discussed the whole fact that, Carrie, you're not autistic. Carrie, you're just a normal kid like anyone else. I've had people say this, and I've never thought of autism as being wrong. I've never thought of it as being something that made me subhuman, that made me any different than any other individual. So I've really tried to build that up in myself to understand that I'm very accepting of who I am as an individual. I think autism has given me many things that have made me who I am, who made me a unique individual, who is able to go out there in the world and to experience things that a lot of individuals can't because of some, for example, I'm very, very detail-oriented. I'm very focused on certain activities, and that's become something that has proven to help me a lot in my life. And I mean, without autism, I don't know necessarily where that would be. So there's definitely a wide spectrum, and for me, I never thought I outgrew autism. I think I just progressed as I was growing up. And I don't know necessarily, there is a lot of people who say you can outgrow autism. Adults do outgrow autism as they become young adults. And it's a controversial topic to me just because I think I am autistic. I don't have autism, but I'm autistic. So it's just something that's going on. Yeah.
I'd like to mention just briefly, you talk about the controversy, and I agree with you, but I also want to share the fact that I actually, although some people think I'm some Benedict Arnold for this, I'm a person with autism that goes to some of the biomedical cure conferences. And one of the things I've always believed is, although I understand the controversy, I think a distinction has to be made between outgrowing biomedical and physical symptoms of autism versus outgrowing psychological symptoms of autism. And I think a mistake is made because so many people who are asserting outgrowing autism are focusing on the biomedical issues, whereas many people who want to maintain their identity are focusing on their personality and the psychological issues of autism.
No, it's a great point. I mean, there's definitely many individuals who are just it's a very wide and variety topic. I mean, there are a lot of people who look at the causes of autism and try to reflect on that, but there's also an entire autistic community who are just looking for self-acceptance and not really looking for the whole, okay, there's a cure to autism, there's really just treatments that will help progress, which is actually a topic that I'm going to be explaining in a few more slides. This way. Cures and treatments. It's been an interesting progression and evolution in my life to understand what cures and treatments have meant to me. I didn't know necessarily that I had autism until I was about a tween, like 12, 13 years old. And for me, first understanding autism was really just trying to understand what the definition was and how that applied to me, as an individual, and where that put me on the spectrum. And for me, it was always that, especially early on, it was like, okay, it's something that can be cured one day, and I have autism instead of being autistic. And over time, though, I think as I progress as an individual and have become more knowledgeable at the whole aspect of autism, from coming to conferences, from speaking to experts, I really have seen that a lot of the therapies and treatments that have helped me over time have helped me progress, and I've been able to use my strengths that autism may have given me to help me in being a unique individual. So I definitely think there's a lot of controversy in this topic as well. There's definitely a lot of organizations that are focused on trying to find a cure, and then there are a lot of organizations who are just very self-accepting and just trying to find treatments to help individuals and focus on the service aspect instead of the biomedical research and trying to find a cure. So it's definitely a topic, and I explain it a little bit more in my blog. And again, the whole having autism versus being autistic. Temple Grandin has a great quote: "If I could snap my fingers and be non-autistic, I would not, because then I wouldn't be autism. I wouldn't be me. Autism is a part of who I am." And if you haven't noticed, all these quotes are based off autism. They're from self-advocates who have autism to parents with individuals on the spectrum, along with positive quotes that I think can be very, very beneficial. And I'm a very motivational, self-motivation kind of guy, so seeing quotes like this really help build me up. And I've actually used these quotes while practicing this presentation to help me build on my presentation overall. So, along with talking about controversial topics and debates within the autism community, there are 2 videos I did specifically. There are actually a lot of videos I do specifically focused on autism, debates in our community, autism-related topics, ranging from Joe Scarborough, like I mentioned I did a few days ago, to 2 other incidents that I really wanted to mention quickly because I think they are very important in regards to the whole autism community. And one of them is focused on Stuart Chaffetz. For those who don't know who Stuart Chaffetz is, he is a parent of a 10-year-old with autism from Cherry Hills, New Jersey. And the situation he had was he was a parent and he had a son in a special handicapped classroom. And during one of the days at school, his son came home very distraught, very unlike himself. And Stuart thought there was something wrong because his son couldn't communicate what was exactly wrong to him. So Stuart actually put a wire on his son and had him go to the school the next day and literally got 6 hours of audio recording from that day. And from the recording, Stuart Chaffetz does a 15-minute video, which has like 4 million views on YouTube now, focused on the fact that one of the teachers in the classroom showed up drunk to class, and well, not actually drunk, but hungover, and was actually told Stuart's son in particular to shut up and that you will not be able to see your father until you calm down, which was a complete fiasco. He actually shares the audio in the video. I believe the video is called Teacher Bullying. Oh, it's actually the Teacher Bullying, How My Son Was Humiliated and Tormented by His Teacher and Aide. It's definitely an interesting watch because specifically he's focusing on a topic that has become very, very new to our autism community in regards to teacher bullying. Bullying for so long I've felt has been between a student and a student or a peer and a peer, but you also have to understand that aspect of autism is that some kids cannot speak out for themselves if something's gone wrong, and a lot of the time, a lot of individuals, especially young individuals, don't know that they're being bullied. They don't understand what bullying is to report bullying. They just see it as a part of being in school. So Stuart Chaffetz's video was very, very impactful because of the whole aspect of teacher bullying, because sometimes in school you don't understand that kids can't communicate for themselves, and this class in particular, most of the kids were nonverbal, so there wasn't really any way to understand that he couldn't communicate that there was something going wrong, that this teacher was doing this, and it ended up to one of the teachers being fired and then the 2 aides being on probation, I believe. And it led to a lot of conversation in my hometown specifically, because I'm in New Jersey. And it brought up the whole aspect that we really need to, a lot of parents who called me the day this video came out were saying that we need to have monitoring in school. And honestly, I don't think that's practical, to be perfectly honest, having monitors in school to do it basically 24/7. But we do need to focus on making sure teachers understand and building school systems that understand that something like this can't be tolerated. And what a lot of school systems are doing now, which is really, really great, is that if you see that someone is being bullied, and if you're not the bully and there's a teacher who sees that there's a teacher bullying someone else, or there's a kid bullying another kid and doesn't report it, then that individual can be fired now. A lot of different states are actually implementing this to make people understand that bullying is wrong, that even if you're not the one being the bully, you can be bullying by not reaching out and making sure that something's done because you are a hired teacher and individual through that school system. So it's definitely an interesting topic, and I explained my reaction as an autistic individual, and and what that meant to me to hear about that, because growing up for me, I didn't know what bullying was until I was very, very older. Like, there was no awareness sessions, there was not even a mention of bullying until I was probably in private school, in like 10 and 11 years old. So it's really about making people aware, and also in many aspects of bullying, making sure, a great thing I've seen in a lot of school systems is that people, especially teachers, are talking to a lot of the individuals who are causing the bullying and being able to make them understand that self-awareness and making sure they understand that bullying does hurt people. There's a great movie that came out in a limited release called Bullying. I think it's Bullying the movie, where there are situations where kids are seeing bullying by other kids, and there's a lot of statistical numbers in it as well. I think it's bullyingthemovie.com, I'm not sure, but if you type in, if you go into Google search and say bullying the movie, I'm sure it's like the first one that shows up. So that was my response. And the second response was about rapper 50 Cent. And I don't know if anyone heard about what he said via Twitter, but his new album was just coming out recently. And one of the things he said was that one of his followers tweeted a death threat towards 50 Cent. And 50 Cent came back and pretty much said, I saw your picture, fool, and you look autistic. Which, yeah, which was followed by, please don't follow me on Twitter anymore. I don't want no special ed kid following me on Twitter. So we had an entire backlash through the autism community. There were a lot of angry, there was a Twitter hashtag that really tried to branch out and try to make him apologize. And an advocate in our autism community, Holly Robinson-Pete, who has a child on the spectrum, did a wonderful letter, and we actually got him to apologize. And that was one of the videos I did that got really, really out there to the autism community based on my perspective. So I think a lot of these videos also help with the whole aspect that we have a very, very vibrant community now. I mean, the numbers are rapidly increasing. 1 in 88 are now diagnosed with autism. I'm sure everyone knows. And we are building a community, and social media, I mean, there are instances where autism is coming out in some ways which is kind of reflecting badly, but also at the same time, our community is so strong we could really do anything as long as we have the community aspect put together and come together. So this is actually one of my more popular video blogs I did. With my social media community, I have a Facebook page called Carrie Magra. It's literally just my name, Carrie Magra, where I post all the videos and specific links. And one of the questionnaires I did, one of the surveys I did, was I asked 100 parents about therapies that they use. Basically just a broad question one day. I was like, okay, what therapies have you used? I was kind of curious based on my experience compared to someone else's. And we came up with 10 autism therapies that we thought would really, really help individuals. And then we made it into a blog post and tried to send it out to as many people as possible. It's literally, honestly, sometimes the smallest things you can think of, as long as you are on these kind of sites and have a community around, can really branch out a lot. And the top 10 therapies that were actually suggested, the number one was speech and language therapy. The second one was visual schedules. And if anyone, visual schedules is really focused on routines, getting people to focus on sequences, going to different activities, and basically the whole aspect of transitioning. The third one was sensory integration therapy. The fourth was applied behavioral analysis, which I unfortunately didn't have that much experience with. Granted, I was diagnosed in '92, so a lot of ABA was still very, very unknown back then. The fifth one, which was very, very surprising, which I actually had to look up after I saw it as one of the top 10, was social story therapy. Has been shown to help a lot of individuals in regards to using stories to teach social skills and describing social situations for different individuals. And that includes social cues and being able to provide what appropriate behavior looks like, so then they can see it as a pattern and really help there. The sixth one, which kind of got a lot of hand-in-hand work with ABA, is called the Early Start Denver model. And this is a comprehensive behavioral early intervention approach for children with autism. It usually ranges in from 1 year of age to 1 to 4. And the program encompasses a developmental curriculum that defines the skills to be taught at any given time, and a set of teaching procedures used to deliver the content. So, like I said, it takes a lot from the ABA in regards to the one-on-one personal attention that goes into it. And actually, a lot of what was recommended was focused primarily on one-on-one and through ABA. That it's really just the thing that has really shown to show the most progress in regards to helping an individual. The seventh one was pivotal response treatment, and this is focused on play-based and child-initiated activities, focused on the development of communication, language, different social cues, body cues, and just focusing on social interaction along with how to self-manage your time in different areas, especially with young individuals, because a lot of the time, from talking to parents, one of the things they notice is that they're teaching time management skills to an individual when they're getting into their teenage years and into their college years, and they're not making it a priority early on. And a lot of people say that, and this is just kind of thing, if you can enhance, you can really mold a mind in the first few years. So being able to focus time management, especially early on, can help in a long-term scale. So that's what we learned also. Number 8 was gluten-free diet, which has just been around forever and has shown countless results. And then cognitive behavioral therapy. And finally, music therapy. Music therapy was something I actually put as my number 1. And the reason I put it as my number 1 was because it's really focused on being able to be comfortable in yourself. These type of music therapies are focused on trying to decide what the student likes and what type of music the student really engages with, and then being able to use that in an environment which can help him or her in their learning to make sure they understand what's going on, to make them as comfortable as possible, especially if they're focused on social skills and different areas. So those were the top 10 therapies, and the 4 recommendations that people put in regards to ways to learn more about therapies were through the Autism Speaks 100-Day Kit, which has been around for a few years now, which focuses on the first 100 days since the diagnosis, which has gone through countless different therapies that seem to be working. The second source is Autism Healing Thresholds. It's basically a website that is focused on giving the definition and a little bit of a broader scope of what each therapy is, along with videos that show how these can be implemented within your either school or parent or at home or different environments. And the other 2 were the Interactive Autism Network and then the Autism Society of America. So you guys are in a good place because they were mentioned. So those are definitely some autism therapies, and I would love to hear if you guys have any thoughts about different autism therapies that work for you, because we are trying to do a second blog that focuses on another 10 autism therapies that can really help parents. So going off that, we also made a list of
Can I ask you on that list, were those like parents of younger children mainly or older?
For the most part, it was kids who were just basically getting diagnosed. We wanted to focus on kids who were just getting into the nitty-gritty of the therapies. So there was about 2 or 3 who had young adults, but it was mostly very young kids.
Yeah, I would love to see that list for like older,
Yeah. That's a great idea.
teenagers and young adults, because I think cognitive behavioral therapy would probably be a lot higher on the list. So.
definitely have to check that out. Thank you for the suggestion. So,
I have a question.
okay, yeah.
The top 10 therapies that you mentioned, was that based on scientific research or coming from parents?
That was completely parents. It was just what has worked for them in the past, and yeah, there were no scientific research.
Thank you.
So the list, so there was a top 10 list of autism therapies, and then we really started, I started talking to a lot of parents who were trying to find self-advocates and speakers who are speaking on the concept of autism awareness. So we created a 100 people making a difference for autism list. And this list got a lot of attention. It's actually the number one. This is actually my blog right here. And the popular posts, those are the top 2, and that was number 1. So 100 people making a difference for autism. We had everyone, self-advocates to self-advocates, scientists, parents, bloggers, a lot of different individuals. We had people like Carly Fleischman, John Elder Robeson, Alex Plank, Temple Grandin. It was a great list. I definitely recommend. If you guys go into Google, or if you, it's actually the number 1 on my blog. So if you can check that out, it has a great variety of list of people, and for the most part, all of them are speakers. So if you're looking for speakers for future conferences, I would definitely recommend that as well. This is another topic that has become somewhat popular on my blog, called telling someone you have autism. For me, the whole aspect of autism and telling people the first time that I had autism didn't come until I was a college freshman. And the reason for that was because by the time I was really learning what autism was to me and what it meant for me to have autism, I was just getting into private school. And with private school, I was going into an environment with different individuals with different learning disabilities. And with that environment, it was always a very, very comfortable environment. People understood that they had different challenges in their lives, but they really, really never had to talk about it. It was never something that was brought up. So a lot of individuals, such as myself, really just never talked on the subject. And then once I got into college, one of the big things that showed up was, okay, I'm in a school that only has less than 1% of individuals with disabilities, and most of those individuals had physical disabilities. My school had probably 5,500 individuals, and there was less than 300 with developmental disabilities along with physical, and I believe there were only like 2 or 3 with autism. So not very high numbers, but I knew I also wanted to become an advocate. So this was the first time. It was actually during an oral communication class. They actually asked me to present on a topic that I felt passionate about. And for me, something I've always been passionate about was trying to spread autism awareness. So my concluding statement in that class was, I'm autistic, but this doesn't make me any less of a person. And then I got a standing ovation in my class, which I loved because I was so scared of it. And after that, I just really tried to build. I tried to go out there and tell people about my story and my experiences to help better educate others, especially college kids who really didn't understand what autism was at all. This is a great video, just because of the whole concept that I'm just learning about autism awareness versus autism acceptance. For so long, I've been advocating for awareness in our community. I've been advocating for parents, individuals to spread autism awareness in everything they do. But what I've really noticed recently is that there are a lot of organizations, such as the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network and a lot of different blogs that are focusing not on autism awareness specifically, but autism acceptance. As everyone knows, Autism Awareness Month is in April, and a lot of organizations focus on Autism Acceptance Month instead of Autism Awareness Month, as a way of making people understand that you can be aware of what autism is. You can do the definition. You can make people understand what autism is who might have never known what autism was before. But there are a lot of ignorant people out there, and the saying is, ignorance is just it's only a lack of awareness. But I think in many aspects today, ignorance is only a lack of acceptance in many instances. There are people out there who can understand what autism is at the definition, but it takes a lot to get people to be aware, but to get them to the next level of accepting who we are as a community and environment, I think is huge. So I've tried to mold my way and move away from the word awareness to trying to get people, especially when I talk to autism groups, to understand about autism and things. So that was another thing that I've been really trying to advocate for. And including with those, I do a lot of videos that are focused on just my thoughts on different recommendations for blogs, people who I think are doing outstanding work. And these two resources I think are great for people who just want to learn more about the experiences some parents have with children with autism. These are two blogs. The first one is called The Thinking Moms Revolution. It's a community of moms in the autism community who focus on autism legislation, autism reform, and really try to focus on sharing their stories, but also at the same time making sure that their voices are really being heard at the next level. And the second one is from a dear friend. Her blog is named Autism Island, and her name is Christine Passy. She has a daughter on the autism spectrum, and it's a great blog. She's very warming and accepting of the positives of some of her experiences, along with some of her more challenging moments. She really goes into great depth about the entire spectrum. So I would definitely recommend these two blogs in particular. Loving someone with autism. I've always thought the whole aspect of positivity is very important in anything you do, not only in the autism community, just in general. Loving yourself, I think, is one of the main things you need to do, because a lot of people try to love other people, but I've always seen you have to love yourself before you can understand how to love someone else. It's also about taking care of yourself and understanding that as someone who might be helping an individual with autism, you might be a parent, you might be a self-advocate, you need to focus on taking care of yourself so you can be 100% for that individual. So loving someone with autism, it's something just about just being there and being positive and just making sure that you are loving yourself as much as this other individual. Autism by the numbers, this has been a big topic for me recently, just because of the CDC numbers that are coming out, 1 in 88 obviously. But more specifically, I've been reflecting on my life. I was diagnosed in 92, and the numbers were 1 in 500, not 1 in 88. And it's made me really understand the whole spectrum of autism and how far we have come as a community. If anyone remembers Stephen Shore, who talked at the keynote today about the whole fact that the numbers as we've seen them so far are probably increasing, and soon we're going to have the Neurotypicals for Dummies book, and it's probably what's going to be happening. Autism is becoming more known. There has been a lot of conversation in regards to why this might be, if it's genetics, if it's environmental, if it's just people are becoming more aware and getting more diagnoses. Me specifically, I think it's just a combination of everything. Obviously, I'm not an expert or a scientist or anything like that, but I think it really has to come down to a combination of all these things together. More specifically, autism diagnoses. I think autism in New Jersey, we have the second highest numbers only to Utah. I believe it's 1 in every 47 individuals are diagnosed with autism in New Jersey. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that's the number. And so we are also the second wealthiest state. So a lot of people have been putting a self-assumption that wealth and being able to get good pediatricians and good doctors has been able to help with the diagnosis rate in New Jersey. So there's definitely a lot of conversation in regards to that, but I always show people like the numbers, and I always try to memorize and retain the numbers to make people understand, because numbers are very impactful, and it really shows that autism is becoming something that's very known in our society. So, my icon's out. This is a very, very personal topic, just because I dabble a lot into my relationships when I first ever asked a girl out, really that whole mess of a situation. Love relationships and telling a girl you like them. For me, one of the most interesting situations, I was 14 and I really never knew how to talk to girls. No one ever taught me how to talk to girls, like all of that. I didn't know what to do. So I literally just went up to a girl one day in class and was just like, would you like to go out with me? She didn't know who I was either. And she was just looking at me like, boy, who are you fooling? Guy, what's going on? I don't know, you're cute. Basically. So that was just one of the first experiences which really made me understand, like, oops, okay, maybe I really need to look this up and do a little research before I try my next step going forward. So moving on and trying to understand all of that, it was definitely an interesting experience. But I think as I grew up and as I became more confident, I really just understood I have to focus on people I can share common interests with, who understand me as an individual, and also if I understand them. It has to be a two-way road. And over the years, I've had several relationships, some longer than others, but it's definitely something that I think all of us have to keep pushing our levels to try. I'm a big advocate of just being able to share a life with someone. Also, at the same time, I know there are a lot of people who are very okay with just being by themselves. In our autistic community, there are a lot of individuals who are just okay with that. But it never hurts to try, and honestly, building your self-confidence and just being able to go out to people and sometimes get rejected, but also understand that you can tell your loved ones that you are trying and you are doing well. And a big thing for me was this participation awards and stuff like that, to understand that if you were trying to do good, either by going out and asking a girl out or just like anything, that you were doing good. And that positive reinforcement, I think, has helped me a lot in my life. So this goes into a lot into the new CDC numbers. Not autistic anymore has become something that a lot of people have been talking to me, especially in the media, because not being autistic anymore has really been focused on the fact that there are going to be new characteristics in regards to CDC, and would my characteristics when I was young be able to really have me as autistic. I've had media come up to me and just ask me what my thoughts are. I've been approached by CNN, CBS to talk in their shows about this related issue. And it's definitely, the new definition does come with a lot of uncertainty. There are a lot of people saying different things, and obviously until 90% of it is what I've heard is already like panned out, and now we're just trying to get the last 10%. But I think a lot of uncertainty is coming with this, and we just have to remember to not try to focus on assumptions. There are a lot of assumptions going with this the new CDC definition, and we just need to focus on making sure that we're not focusing on those assumptions, that we're just focusing on what we know now, and then waiting till the end of the year and seeing what's going to happen. So for the last two slides, I really have to push this because I think it's something that we really need to embrace this as an autism community, and that's the whole aspect of the positives of having autism. There are so many different individuals who are focused on, and granted with good intentions, are focused on the challenges of having autism, the challenges of different characteristics that come with autism. But it's also important to remember that there are aspects of who you are as an individual, regardless of what your diagnosis or not, who make you who you are, who really make you stand out as an individual, and that make you great, that make you an amazing person. And I think focusing on the entire spectrum, which I say a lot, the entire spectrum. You have to focus on everything. You have to focus on being able to love yourself. You have to be able to focus on the positives, and also having positive reinforcement and making sure that it's something that is done very early in age, so it keeps repeating over and over from year to year. My parents were great with that because they would always have positive reinforcements. I had like a little calendar every day that every time I would do something like good, there would be things like, oh, Carrie's very thoughtful today, and Carrie's very caring today. And then there would be like the whole award system, and it'd be like, Carrie, just wanted to let you know you were very caring today. And having that positive reinforcement just reminded me like, wow, okay. Having these thoughts and having the positive outlook is like, it's good. Like having that warm feeling is really, really great. So I think it's something we really need to focus on as an autism community. And finally, there's always hope. It was definitely a long road in regards to my autism diagnosis. I mean, like I said, it's been 20 years since I was first diagnosed, and I didn't know where I was going to be. Like, honestly, like when I was growing up, I expected I was going to be a high school dropout, and I just thought that was going to be it for me. I thought maybe I'll get a job, maybe like custodian, like something like that. Like I would never like go into anything like what I'm doing today. It's like there is always hope. There is always hope for our loved ones. I think it comes in many aspects of just being able to be who you are, love who you are, and really try to do the best for you and your loved ones, and try to make a difference. I've been working on Make a Difference wristband for the past 5 years, and it's something I hold very, very dear to my heart because I want to try to make a difference for not only my life, but for the future kids who are going through the same challenges that I might have had to go through, and to make them understand that there are stories of people who are getting to college, there are stories of people who are doing great and amazing things, and to never forget this and never to get down on yourself, because everyone goes through challenges, some more than others, but it's important to remember that there is hope, and to never give up on yourself. And with that, in conclusion, I want to thank everyone for having me speak today. This is a picture of me, my senior portrait when I was graduating college. It's honestly like one of my only headshots that actually looks decent. So I just had to throw it in there, like, yay, good picture of me. But anyways, so that was my presentation. I do a lot of motivational speaking on a lot of different topics, and I do consult with a lot of parents. I would love now if we could just spend a few minutes Q&A. If anyone has any questions, any thoughts, I would love to answer them.